MLS, and you know what that means? It means we're in the same month as the NFL draft, which we started off not too long ago talking about the pre-combine top prospects, and now we're going to talk about our post-combine and post several pro days, top-rated top 10 players coming into the NFL draft. So Kelsey, we're going to go ahead and give them a look at what you have here and talk us through it. There are some differences here. There's some changes. Some things have mixed up. Some guys have gone up. Some have gone down. Some have made their first appearance.
Yeah, so this isn't the most up-to-date because obviously my number one is definitely Jafar Murray. I'm just kidding. If nobody doesn't know who I'm talking about, he's the kicker out of UTSA. He's my honorable mention for real, though. Before I get into all this, I do have to shout him out because he might be the most athletic kicker we've seen in the draft
Big field goals
ever. 70-plus yards, ran a 4.5 40, 12 of 13 for field goals in his pro day. Yeah. Also, when he played soccer, looking at his college stats at Drake, 11 goals scored in 19 games played for a midfielder. I'll take that record on 16 shots. I'll take that record for a midfielder. So yeah, I'm looking at him as an honorable mention, and it's no offense to the other guys here, but it's just somebody to look out for in the sixth or seventh round. Maybe getting a shot just because somebody wants to just see, because it's a kicker. We'll never know. And remember, we believe kickers are people too. So kickers matter.
With that 40-yard dash time, he might be a weapon that happens to kick.
Yeah. But looking at this list, obviously the biggest difference here on my top 10 compared to my previous top 10 is a name missing, and that's Reuben Baine Jr. And I think it's worth conversating about why. And it has nothing to do with him on the field during games. Nothing at all. But when you look at this testing process, because that's what this is, combine, post-combine, pro days, it's all tests. Just what it is. It has nothing to do with getting on the field, putting your pads on, and running against one-on-one against another man or 11-on-11 versus another team. It is purely set up to watch you succeed. I haven't seen him stand out as much as everybody else in drills as the top 10 I have here. And that's nothing to say anything about him. I just need to say this before we get into anything else, because he is somebody as game guy. He's a game performer. He is not a test athlete. And that's just what it is. I don't care about the arm length. I don't care about anything else. Put the pads on him. I feel really good about him. I feel really good about where he's going to be in the draft anyways, but I don't think right now he's a top 10 draft option. And this has nothing to do with him. It's just purely down to do this draft class. Honestly, it just doesn't feel like this draft class is one where edges really matter as much as every other position, because it feels like edges, and I'm operating under the assumption Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles are listed as linebackers as they were at Ohio State. Let me be very clear. Reuben Baines Jr. is number 2 in that edge conversation. And it doesn't feel like he's good enough to get a top 10 grade right now. And that's nothing against him. It's just, if he's 11, he's 11. So be it. So obviously, let's start with one and work our way down, because we're going to do the obvious ones first. Fernando Mendoza. Duh. Jeremiah Love. Does anybody surprised by this one at all? I'd be shocked if you're surprised. Arvell Reese
was not number 1.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, that's probably your most shocking thing. I feel like these two, you can flip-flop Fernando Mendoza, Jeremiah Love, how you like. I also feel like when you get to 3, 4, it's Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles in whatever order you want. However, I can see why people wouldn't have them 3, 4. Maybe they have them 4, 5. But I think wherever you put one, the second one's going to follow, because what they've done in the combine, what they did at the pro day, I think has been, I think it's shocking how just insane athletes both of them are. And they were on the same team. It's not fair. Like, I don't care who you are. It's Ohio State or Tulane. I don't care. Having two guys that are that athletic on your defense that are operating your entire defense, that should never be able to happen. But I'm not done with Ohio State. We'll get to them a little bit more later. David Bailey, I still think is your top edge, and he's your top true edge. And I need to be very clear about this. I do not believe Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles are going to be listed as edge rushers. I know there's a conversation about it, one of them being an edge, one of them being a linebacker. They're both linebackers because that gives them the most hybrid ability to do everything. David Bailey, you're not going to put out in the flats in a 3-4 defense. I'm sorry. That's never going to happen. He will be a rush edge every single opportunity. Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles, you can feel okay with dropping them in the flats. That's what differentiates a linebacker from a rush edge to me. Just being completely obvious about it. Same thing goes with Baines, who I talked about earlier. For me, Bailey it's not like a bad thing that he's below Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese. It's just I think Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles have outperformed in this testing period. I mean, they have just been so exceptional. It's hard not to have them in the top 4 of my board. David Bailey is still a top 5 guy. I actually don't think David Bailey fell at all in my board. I think he just stayed the same. Like everybody else dropped around him, and some people rose above him, but he just kind of stayed the same on my board from the last one. Next up, Francis Mauigoa. I'm going to mess his name up every time, out of Miami. Still the top tackle in my eyes. I think it's him, and then as you see on the rest of my board, there's one more tackle on here, but I do think Francis is the top guy, and I think there's some space. I do think there's a gap between him and everybody else, and it's not like I don't think offensive linemen you can really grade in drills, if I'm being fair. It doesn't account for adaptability against the rusher. It doesn't account for any of those things in drills. You realistically don't know how good a tackle or offensive lineman is really going to be until they are 1-on-1, 2-on-1. How are they handling changing coverages? Like, how are they handling blitz coverage, blitz pickups? How are they handling handoffs? What do they do when there's no man in front of them? Those are the things that determine how good an offensive lineman really is. I could care less about how good of a kick step it looks. But that's what happens in the test period. Francis is not like, I think he moved up my board because everybody else fell down. That was really the biggest thing. I've believed in him since before the draft, before he started this cycle. I still believe he's one of the top tackles. Nothing's happened to change my mind on that. Now, one guy that did fall is Caleb Downs. It's not me picking him as a he fell because reason. It's well, your teammates screwed you, bud. I'm sorry. They just outperformed you in their testing drills. And again, safety is also another one of those positions. I have a hard time with the testing aspect of safety. What, you want me to sit here and watch this guy's fluid hips? Okay, like unless it's an obviously bad footwork drill, like safeties are so hard to grade in testing because it doesn't bring the instinctual abilities. Like Kyle Hamilton, honestly, looked awful in testing drills.
Terrible, mediocre. Trying to cover guys in that first mini camp, they were like, "Oh God, what a bust out of the gate!"
Look garbage. But you put him in the middle of a field and say, "Go make a play." One of the best. Earl Thomas was also like that. If people remember, Earl Thomas was not a guy that tested well, but he was a guy that played exceptional. And I think you're going to see a lot of that with Caleb Downs. You're going to see him be a guy he's a guy that is just going to play better than everybody else. And that's nothing wrong with that. But when you look at the testing period, I do have to grade the guys that are just being exceptionally well tested and performing when they're given the opportunity. And then unfortunately, it just means Caleb Downs falls down the list. And he falls in that category we talked about before, where these are the guys that just get nitpicked during this period. Like, oh, you're not doing that right. But like, you look at his stats, you look at his performance, and it's like, you can't argue with those. That's true performance, and you can't really argue with that. Like, maybe there's a little bit of things that can be fixed here and there, but honestly, that's what works for him and his body and his mind. I'm gonna let him keep doing him. Now, on the flip side of that, you have number 8, Mansour Delane, who is probably the most athletic freak of nature back there out of LSU. I think he's just exceptional talent as well. I think he moved up my board just a little bit here, but not incredibly higher than he was. He's still a great talent. I think falls into this long line of LSU DBs that continue to come out of the draft that we all look at as like, oh yeah, this guy's good. He's gonna have a great NFL career as long as he can stay out of trouble. That's just the one bugaboo that comes with LSU. It's not like Georgia, but LSU DBs seem to have that similar issues at times. Number 9, Carnell Tate. I think he's probably the biggest drop on this list that still stayed in this list. Nothing wrong. Just you got screwed by your teammates at performing well. Sorry, bud. 2 other Ohio State guys did really, really well, and you didn't. You're still in my top 10. I still think he's the best receiver. Malachi Lemon's there, but he's still not a top 10 guy in my eyes. I think I just like Carnell Tate better overall. And then last but not least, Spencer Fano out of Utah, number 2 tackle. Again, I think there's Francis, Fano, then there's maybe a small gap, and then there's the next 5 offensive tackles right below them. Honestly, I think tackle might be one of the best positions this year to draft from, and I think I say a lot that offensive lineman is usually always a really good position, but I think this year especially, it's a really deep class. And you're splitting hairs really between after Fano and everybody else. It feels like you're just splitting hairs. I think Ione out of Penn State is out there, and the other tackle from Utah is out there as guys. It's really your preference on their physical stature. And again, I hate trying to grade offensive linemen on testing drills because it doesn't feel like I'm really seeing what they can do. I've seen guys in person test incredibly, and then when you put them on the field, they have no idea how to slide block, no idea how to block a gap, no idea how to do anything to help their team, no idea how to pick up a blitz. I'm sorry, in the NFL, you need to learn to pick up the blitz, whether it's called out or not. You need to learn how to pick it up, because you're going to get blamed for it no matter what if you're an offensive lineman. So it's hard for me to kind of move a lot of offensive linemen over other offensive linemen in this period. But yeah. So anyways, this is what I have, my top 10.
So I'm surprised the Cardinals Tate did stay in the top 10, just because, as you mentioned, since a lot of years was looking at the testing process, I don't say a letdown because it was still fine. It was because everyone thought he was
great. Yeah.
You watch him play, you think he's a 4.37 type of guy, and he ran a 4.53 to between a 4.48 and a 4.53. That's a large gap. So either somebody was very generous or a lot were very ungenerous. He's going to be fine. I still like him a lot too. He's still a top 15, maybe top 10 pick for sure. So I like it. Mansour Delane, I think he'll be CB1 as well. I think he's going to be awesome. Caleb Downs, I do agree with you. I think the way he plays, no testing is going to do him justice because he's not going to run a 4.3 flat. He's swift, he's swift, he's smooth, but he's not super graceful. He's just a good football player. He's in the same vein as Kyle Hamilton. Just when he's on the field, he's awesome. Just when he's playing football, he's awesome. Everything else in between doesn't look quite as pretty per se.
You hear his name more often than you hear any other defender's name, and then not in a bad way. Like, oh, and Downs makes a tackle. Oh, and Downs breaks up a pass. And oh, Downs does this. And oh, Downs does this. It's never Downs blew this coverage. Down gets burned. Like, it's very rarely has that ever been the case. It does happen. It has happened. Let's not kid ourselves. It does happen. But it's never been like one of those situations. And that tells me he has a higher IQ and higher instinct than everybody else. And like, these testing periods don't test that. Like, I can't physically show somebody that this guy knows how to read a field, but I can turn on the tape and be like, that's an instinctual play. Like that's the hardest thing that I have to grade during this period, really.
Most definitely. I think it's going to be really annoying when he goes to the Chiefs or something like that and just ends up being awesome. And then everyone's like, wow, how did they get him? He was so good. And it's like, well, it's because you all ignored him because he is a safety. And now we're all stuck having to deal with this. Thanks a lot, everybody else. You put us through it now. We appreciate it so much. So, I do really like that pick for sure. I think the one that does surprise me too is, as much as you do love yourself some offensive linemen, I thought for sure that Spencer Fano might get that 9th spot. I thought he, just because of Carnell Tate running a touch slower, I'm kind of disappointed that you didn't have 2 offensive linemen in the top 9. I'm surprised you didn't get 3 in there, honestly. Like, you're kind of breaking the mold here. I'm
not going to tell you what my 11 through 20 looks like because it's kind of offensive lineman after offensive lineman, and Reuben Baines is somewhere in there. But no, I think honestly, Carnell Tate's a weird situation for me because, like you said, watching him play, it feels like he runs a 4.3. And again, how do you test somebody who in pad shows me speed that I didn't just see in a 40? Like, how do I properly grade? Because it's hard to argue with him playing against top tier talent who are now in the NFL or going to be in the NFL, and he's burning them. Like, it's hard to look at that and be like, man, you're slow. Like,
definitely not slow. Anyone who says slow is blind. I could see why they were maybe.
It's hard to drop because the talent is there. You see it every one of us saw it on Saturdays, even when there were exceptionally first overall wide receivers taken before him in Emeka Ibuka. Go down the list. Marvin Harrison. Go down the list of great Ohio State receivers. Carnell Tate was still the guy that's making plays in a number 3 role, number 4 role, number 2 role. He was still making those plays. And I think that's hard to overlook, despite, like you said, I mean, I think testing wise, yeah, you could say he probably has a C grade in testing, but it didn't feel like that was the C graded player on the field. It feels like on the field, he's an A+ grade. And so there's something to me, like I look at that as maybe there's something like we're not seeing. And maybe he's a pad player. Maybe you put the pads on him and he's just completely different. Hines Ward was that way. If anybody remembers Hines Ward, he was a pads player. He was not a sit in front of you, burn you one-on-one in shorts and a t-shirt. But he's a guy in pads. He's going to beat the heck out of you. And I think that's maybe what Carnell Tate is. Obviously, I think Carnell Tate's still faster, still stronger than him. But I think that's the same mentality Carnell Tate has. He's like, it is what it is. And at this level, I don't care if somebody tests well or not. I just care if they play well on Sunday.
And that's what it all is going to end up coming down to. A lot of this, for me, when we do this, it's not so much, oh, he ran fast, so we're taking him high. It's if they played well and their testing matched it, or maybe they played well and suddenly, like when Justin Jefferson ran that 4.3, it's like, oh, he has a gear that we didn't even realize. And now look how that turned out. So I think
like Arbel Reese and Sonny Styles, those are perfect examples of guys who played exceptionally well and then tested insanely well. And you're like, okay, yeah, they're locks. Here you go. Top 5 position guaranteed. Or for me, at least.
They're going to get there. I'm going to shake it up a little bit. We're going to go through mine quickly because mine's going to look just a little bit different here in a moment. But off the top, I have Jeremiah Love. I am sticking with the same thing. I had him as number 1 in our last one, and he confirmed that by running a 4.3 40-yard dash. And all of his drills, not a lot needs to be said there. David Bailey, I agree with you for edge 1, and I think he's absolutely outstanding. His production score and his athleticism score made him the top-rated edge, combine, pro day, everything so far. He does need to work on a little bit of disengaging blocks, a little bit of strength, some stuff that comes with it. But just as a pure go kill that guy, you can't leave him unblocked either. If you're running away from me, you try and not block the backside edge, you're burying yourself with that one.
His pursuit is insane.
Like he's incredible. He has very underratedly good ability to kind of diagnose plays too. I think he can figure that stuff out a lot. Why I have Reuben Baine so high is when you look back on it, there was nothing really exceptional during the pro days besides his bend. I think the fact that he showed he could bend like that, I was like, okay, we're good here. And the thing he does, okay, I don't care about your arms. If you could bend like that, you'll be fine. You'll get underneath their arms. It'll be okay. And he is everything I just said about David Bailey, about underrated play recognition. Reuben Baine has that in spades. If you try and block, we saw it in the national championship game. They tried to block him a certain way to set up different screen passes, RPOs. He recognized it, saw that coming, and broke up a huge third down against the Indiana that helped get Miami kind of back into the game as well. So I think his mind and his ability to bend arm length concerns don't really have him at this point. I think he'll be all right. Will he be like edge 1, Myles Garrett, terrifying freak of nature? I don't know. Probably unlikely. But in this, if you're picking in that top 10 and you look at Reuben Baine, you need an edge rusher. I think it's a smart pick. He could be very, very solid. Caleb Downs, everything we said, he's incredible. He's just a great football player. If he goes to the Chiefs, we're all going to be pissed. I'm just going to leave it at that at this point. That's the easiest way to simplify it because we saw Kyle Hamilton with the Ravens. Now we're all pissed when we have to play against him. Yeah. Fernando Mendoza, number 5. He had a really good pro day. I really liked what I saw. He showed he has good arm strength, through some fit in between the 50, 60-yard range. A couple hit the ground that were drops. He looked really good. I think he's QB1 comfortably. I know Dan Orlovsky and the Ty Simpson militia is trying to push him up there, and I think Ty Simpson's probably QB2, but I think Mendoza has a grasp on QB1. I like him there. Arbel Reese, as you mentioned, an incredible combine, like blew the roof off with the athleticism. And then he has a pro day where the bend doesn't look good. Then they post a separate video like 3 days later, and suddenly he can bend like Reuben Baine. So it's very weird. I think you could tell he's very in the right system. He's going to be a freak of nature. If Dan Quinn gets a hold of him, he's going to try and turn that man into Micah Parsons, and it might be pretty scary. I think what hurts him almost is that he's kind of in that tweener spot of, are you a linebacker? Or are you an edge rusher? How do we use you? Like, he's a good football player, and a good coach will use him. It'll be awesome. Less good situation, he's Isaiah Simmons probably, and just never quite gets a chance to bounce back. So I think the upside is there. That's why he's still in the top 6. Francis Mayagoa, best offensive lineman. I think he's an elite right tackle for years to come and a really good left tackle. Spencer Fano, kind of the same thing, just a little bit low. We're not going to, as you mentioned, there's not too much to change with offensive linemen besides when you watch him back and you just see they play really well.
Yeah.
Sonny Styles, I have at number 9 in a similar vein of Arbel Reese. Is where are you going to play him? I think he's going to be an off-ball linebacker that sometimes rushes, and he's going to be a freak. I think he did definitely. There's a lot of plays you look back on there. They're running away from Arbel Reese, and Sonny Styles is cleaning up. They're blocking everything with Caleb Downs, and then Sonny Styles comes flying in. outstanding player. That 40, as we mentioned, the combine, him and Arvo Reese tore the combine apart. My goodness, they tore it apart. I like Sonny Styles, and I think if I'm the Giants, I'm really considering taking him at 5. All the things I say, I think the fit will matter with him as well. I like Sonny Styles a lot. Where I'm throwing a little bit of a wrench in things, I got Jordan Tyson as receiver 1 at pick number 10. Injury concerns, I get it. He's not going to go in the top 10 because those injury concerns. I get that. I'm ranking just the player at this point. The best separator in the class statistically, at least one of them. So smooth. He's fluid. He has great hands. He's always finds a way to get open. He performs well against zone coverage. He's been, speaking of Hines Ward, you mentioned earlier, coached by Hines Ward, so you know he's not going to be scared to block somebody. In fact, he might try and kill a man if he spent too much time around Hines Ward. As we know, Mr. Cracking Jaws and whatnot. I think he's going to be very – he's not going to go top 10 because of the injury concerns. He might even slip close to the 20s, I could see, maybe even like the late first round. Imagine him going – I'm just imagining him going to some of those teams that were kind of like hypothetically, let's say the Eagles get rid of A.J. Brown and bring in Jordan Tyson. If he stays healthy, it's like, well, that's nice. It's not quite – not saying he'll be A.J. Brown, but not a bad consolation prize. That's how I'm looking at this one. Or the Chiefs at pick number 29 from the Rams and the Rams trade. They get him at 29. It's like, great. Just wonderful. Here they come again. That's going to be the barometer that I'm going to use. Is we're going to be pissed when the Chiefs get him. That's how I'm using the barometer. So no one thinks we're being negative here. You can't put 10 guys at number 1, but this is a very quick, condensed version. I think Bailey, Bain, they're going to be great wherever they go. I like Bailey a little more. Caleb Downs in the right system, he's going to be elite. In any system, he's going to be good. Mendoza, QB1. The rest of the guys, I think, very talented. And Jeremiah Love's in the same vein of Bijan Robinson a few years ago, could make a case. I'm just in this particular case, best player in the draft. He can.
Yeah.
I don't know who takes him, but whoever does, it's going to be like, yeah, we'll just get him on the field. I don't know how, but we'll get him out there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And look, I think it's, for me, I almost didn't want to put Mendoza in my top 10 because it felt like I think we're all set. Like, I think we're all in agreement. He's number 1 overall. I don't think it's going anywhere.
If he doesn't go number 1 overall, I have some serious questions about what has been happening with the Raiders and behind closed doors.
Yeah. Unless Tom Brady's coming out of retirement, or Brady Tom, or whatever alias he wants to go by in his return from whatever. But I think I almost didn't want to put him there because I kind of feel like you, where it's like it's a hard thing to say that if I would take Fernando Mendoza off the list, it's a hard thing to say that Jeremiah Love isn't the obvious number 1. Because to me, he is truly shown that he could be the best overall player in the draft. And it's so hard to but at the same time, we all know the number 1 pick is going to be Mendoza. So it's hard to say oh, I'm going to leave Mendoza off my list, not to be cheeky or anything. It's just purely, we already know he's going to the Raiders. So let's look at every other of the 31 draft picks that are happening in the first round. Where do I rank those guys that are left? It's that's what I wanted to do. And then I was like, that's going to be some rage bait on somebody's behalf. Somebody's going to get mad at me for doing that.
And that's when the Raiders throw a wrench in and don't take him number 1. It's like, well, now we're dumb in hindsight and foresight.
But no, I honestly like your list as far as I think the up till 9, I really like your list. And at 10, I understand the Jordan Tyson pick. It's not that I don't like it. I understand it. I just personally don't believe he's a top 10 player right now. And it's nothing against him in the long run of what he could do in the NFL. It's really against the type of receiver he is. His type of receiver, in my eyes, doesn't last but maybe 5 years successfully in the NFL. Where he is more of a injury prone, kind of a speedster, like you said, a separator. Those guys don't last as long as somebody who is just shown just to get open in different route trees. And I think that's what, for me, why I rank Carnell Tate, Malachi Lemon a little bit higher than I like Jordan Tyson, where he's just, I think, just not there when it comes to the route tree as much. Also, he was, if you don't remember, he was the byproduct of the Dion comes into Colorado and says, take your luggage and get out. I'm bringing my own, and it's Louis. He was a byproduct of the get out, along with Josh McCown's son. So it's tough because he led that Colorado team in receiving, and then he didn't do anything the next year, and then 1,000 yards the year after that, and then injury this final year after posting 700 yards. So he's shown talent. It's just, how sustainable is that talent in the NFL? I don't know. And I do kind of project a little bit of I don't believe you're a top 10 talent if you can't stay with the team for longer than 5 years because of injuries. I do have a little bit of that projection in my top 10s. So I'm going to be biased and say that.
If injuries do end up being a reoccurring problem, obviously he's definitely off the list then. But I'm turning injuries off for this one. I'm using the Madden injuries off, considering we have seen him be healthy. It just has been a little inconsistent, and I think this last year is one that really hurt him as well. Obviously, the major knee injury at Colorado right before Deion's Louis, as you mentioned, he was outstanding coming into that. Then the next year, basically with the knee injury, basically just redshirted, didn't even really play. He might have benefited from staying one more year, but then I can get why he came out this year because he's still going to be a first round talent, and you don't want to compete with the Jeremiah Smiths for draft class and stuff next year. And you don't want to risk yet another injury because then you're really going to get the injury prone label at that point. But the fact that he could play everywhere on the field, he could play outside, inside, slot, motion, Z, X. He's very, very versatile. He could be. I feel like he could do everything, but like you mentioned, I see him in the same vein as like a Terry McLaurin. I think he's just really, really good. His highs are like, oh snap, this guy's like that. But then the injuries really worry. The injuries are worrisome, and I don't know if he'll ever be freaky. But I like all the receivers. I think they're all in a similar vein. They just do things very differently. For example, I think they're all very similar Madden rating. They just do things differently.
Yeah, that's fair. He kind of reminds me of how I felt about Treylon Burks for different reasons, but the same fears I felt about Treylon Burks in the draft, where I'm just like, for something about him just doesn't make me feel comfortable with him as a top first round draft pick. Like that's how I felt about. If anybody remembers my complaints about Treylon Burks, it was because I didn't feel like he was athletically ready for the NFL. I didn't feel like he was as good of a talent of a receiver. Everybody's like, oh, he's the next Debo. I never agreed with that. I'm not saying Jordan Tyson falls in that exact same guy. He's not the exact same player. But what he is somebody who I have a weird feeling about coming into the draft where I'm just like, something is wrong and I can't place it other than the injuries is the obvious flag. But there's also something else, like something about the way he plays, I don't find as something I see in an NFL level.
We also just haven't seen nearly enough of him for a very long time, which is another concern too. It's like, what's going on here? Why haven't I seen enough of you? I think that's a huge concern.
Because he's impactful. I mean, there's no denying 700 yards and 4 touchdowns in 7 games, something like that, 6 games, 7 games this year before he got injured. Like incredibly impactful, no doubt about it. But
and we saw how bad that Arizona State team plummeted after he got hurt too. Like you went from having a potential Sam Levitt maybe being a drafted quarterback there, maybe the first couple rounds being really good, to now you're transferring. Well, you got to take another crack at it because that team was not nearly as strong after Cam Scatterbo left and Jordan Tyson went down. And it was like, oh, and then Sam Levitt gets hurt. And it's like, well, we're a mess now. So we'll see. I do like a lot of those receivers. I like a lot of those receivers. I hold in similar vein. But let us know down below who you have in your top 10 and which one of us is categorically terrible and which one of us is at least semi-competent, or for both categorically terrible. Your call.